All right. It's my pleasure to welcome Yu-Shen Lin from Boston University. Will talk to us about symplectic scattering diagrams of log Calabi-Yau surfaces.
So first, I want to thanks the organizer for the invitation. It's my pleasure to visit my neighborhood most season again. So I'll talk about symplectic scattering diagram of log Calabi-Yau surfaces, and this is a joint work with my current student Paul Evans and Wendy Chun and so on. So I want to first explain what are the terminologies that in the title. So what I mean by log Calabi-Yau surface, this means that I have a rational surface. Please let me know if I do not write large enough. So maybe I'll assume let's project this notes over C. And I will have, so D is, and so D is anti-canonical cycle. So it's a cycle. It means like so this is Y. And so D is like a wheel P1. So it's union of P1 and they intersect transversal. So that's what I mean by a cycle. So this the pair of Y is what I call log Calabi-Yau surface. Looks quite heavy. Very good exercise.
You get at the right point. You gotta get at the right point.
Yeah. So the work. So we're going. So they construct. Construction of the narrow family. And so one of the key input, the one key invention, which is an intermediate set, is the so-called canonical scattering diagram. And so I'll explain what scattering diagram is, as this is one of the keywords in the title. And so the main goal, the question I want to answer is how do we practice this data from symplectic geometry. So essentially, like once you have the scattering diagram, there is a procedure. And so for a zebra program or for second kill, they will be able to construct a mirror family. So the key point is how do we get this scattering diagram? So and also mention that there's also like a later work of Yan and Lai, and they extend the work of to construct there's a there's a complication of the mirror family together with the supertension. Okay, so I probably not going to completely define what this means by scattering diagram, but I'll give you the basic plane examples. Right, so a scattering diagram consists of so I will just put it in R2. So I'll put it in R2. So for R2, I'll do this like there's a lattice tensor. So first I will have some lines as part of the data. And so this one is one, maybe I'll use a different color. So there are some, first, there are some lines which I call initial rays. Although they are lines. And there are possibly some rays or not. And so the rays should, if there's a ray, they should coming out from either, maybe I should have more rays, initial rays in the beginning. So if they have some rays, then they should coming out either from the intersection of the lines or intersection of the rays with the line. That's the rule. And for every ray or line, I need to attach a function on it. So the way I attach the function is that, so for example, I'm going to have 1 plus x is just because that for this one, so this this direction is like I will view this x as e to the power 1, 0. And so this is, if I view this, I probably should, I would put an orientation, so telling me that this is in one direction. And so the function I'm going to attach to each ray should be a power series in this variable that is the primitive direction. So for example, for this ray, so this is, if I put the directions here, then I'll put it z1 0 1, I'll call it y. So I'm going to have some function that in power series of y. And I also require that the leading coefficient to be 1. So for example, I can put it. So for example, for this one, so this is, if the orientation is y, so this is in the 1, 1 direction. So this, I should have some functions, some power series that's in terms of x, y, and the leading coefficient, constant coefficient, I always require to be 1. And so it's possibly can have more, but it will be something.
Do you are the coordinate axes always part of your initial rays, or
no, not necessarily.
Okay.
I can have very random. Like you can. So the initial rays is something you have your own choice. So now, for a given array,
So I missed the difference between an initial ray and array.
yeah. So the initial rays are actually lines.
Mhm.
Sorry. And so there are some other rays that they can start from the point of intersection, either of the line with a line or line with a ray. So this we call so the scattering diagram is like initial rays and rays together, and each ray or initial ray I should attach a function. Which is a power series, and it's 1 plus something, and this polynomial is like determined like by the direction of the ray. So this is what we call the scalar. So now for each of the ray, I'm going to attach a transformation. So for example, if I'm going to cross a ray, I'm going to attach the transformation like this: z to n goes to z to n prime, z to n prime goes to that some function. So I will call this is f. And there's, so maybe if I call this is n, so this is z to the n. And so I'll put an m here, and n is the primitive vector that's annihilate this the n. This is n. So n is the primitive vector annihilate n. So n is primitive. So there's a choice of signs, so maybe I'll put it plus minus. I'm not going to explain this. So now I'm going to explain. I'm going to attach a transformation. Actually, this is algebra homomorphism for each override. So the crucial point is that a crucial observation is that if you look at this transformation, so if so maybe I should.
Okay, so to get a sense of where things are going. So the dual to a log Calabi-Yau surface is like, maybe I don't have things straight in my head, but is it like some sort of torus vibration, and then you're, or like what do you mean by the mirror family?
That's a very good question. So
Torus vibration over like a 2D base.
so okay, that's a very good question. So maybe let me explain a few examples, and I'll probably be able to answer that.
Okay.
What do we mean by mirror?
Okay.
That's a very good question.
Okay.
It's not exactly like, well, in some sense, it's not directly stressed, and then we're gonna throw back in the field.
Okay, okay.
And there's still a natural why they call it mirror map. So remark is that, so if you look at this, so recall that x is like z to the power 1, 0, and y is z to the power 0, 1. So this 2, 0 point. Let's be sorry. My star. If I call this a star, this transformation here, this preserve this 2, 0 point. There's a holomorphic 2, 0 form that's naturally preserved by this, by straightforward computation. Right, so we say a scattering diagram is consistent if for every loop I draw in the diagram, but now I'm going to have, if I draw a loop like this, so recall that every time I cross a ray, I'm going to have a transformation. Every time I cross a ray, I'm going to have a transformation. I'm going to consider the product of all this transformation respect to the order of crossing this line of rays and product. And maybe so let me call this is k sigma. So if this ray I call sigma, then I'll call it k. There's a plus minus sign, then I'll forget that. So if product, so I'll use this notation. This means that I'm going to respect to the order of the product that goes around the loop. So you can sigma. There's a plus minus sign, I forget it. But depends on, you're going like from the bottom to the top or from top to bottom. So there's a choice of sign. But then this is strictly identical.
You're taking the loop big enough, right?
It doesn't matter. As long as it doesn't, probably I should say that I choose any loop as long as it doesn't go to this kind of point, which is ambiguous.
But if you make it smaller there, you get less pure rate, right? So maybe there's a.
It always gives you identity. So maybe it's in some, you see that this is really, so for example, if the big loop is actually, its identity is equivalent to, this is identity, this is identity, this is identity. Then the bigger loop will give you identity. So I just add all possible loop.
For all, okay.
All possible.
Yeah.
All generic loop.
Yeah, that would.
I require this to be identity. Okay. So now I can, so module a lot of technical detail, but I can explain why this scattering diagram gives you the Calabi-Yau. So because now for every patches, I can have I can define a torus here, a C star square, equipped with the natural 2, 0, 1. When I cross to the other chart, I'm going to have a torus. But how this tutorial is screwed together, I'm going to use this transformation. 201 is preserved, so it's well defined on the other chart. So now I can extend the 201 on these two charts. And this, what does this mean? It means that when I go around the charts, the 201 grew in a consistent way. So you get a global 201. That's what we mean by a Calabi-Yau surface. So I hope that it convinced you, although that there's a lot of technical details and algebraic geometry want you to fill in, but this is the rough picture why that you, once you have a consistent scattering diagram, we should expect to construct the Calabi-Yaus. Okay. And so partially answer the question of Joshua. So what do you mean by the mirror? So I want to say that later on, I want to say that from the data of counting invariance on original pair YD, I'm going to use that as a part of data from A side to construct a scattering diagram. From there, scattering diagram, I just explained that can help you to understand how complex, as a complex manifold, how the charts grew up, you get a complex manifold. So if I can explain how to construct this from the A side data, like counting invariance from a Witten type invariance, that some sense explain why we can get invariance. In that sense, I hope that gives you an answer. Yes.
I have maybe a very basic question, just to make sure I understand. So the transformation Z M prime goes to M prime times, that.
Yeah.
So for this example, X
Yes,
goes to X.
so let me give you an example. So maybe I'll try to what. So now I'll give you, as this is the true blend example I'm going to use for the rest of the talk. So I'm going to put 1 plus X here. I'm going to put 1 plus 1 here. Technically, I'm going to, well, I think people again probably don't like this this arrow, but I'll put it there for some reason. And so I think I always have might have the wrong sign, plus minus 1. So this will give you this X goes to X, and Y goes to 1 plus X times Y. Probably there's a minus sign there. I might be wrong with this sign. But it will look like this for this either going up or going down. So this is probably, if people are familiar with this kind of cluster transformation. Right. So to give you the consistent example of scattering diagram, which is consistent, so we're going to have one more way. And it's a very interesting algebra exercise. If you compose all the transformation together, you really get an equal. So this is structural calculation, but it's very interesting. Right. So this is the example which one I'm getting. So now I want to explain how to go from the pair, how to get the scattering diagram from counting invariance. So this is done in the work of I should not erase first. So again, I'm not going to explain maybe I should explain. So but maybe I'll take this for example. So let's start with P. Or in general, we start with the toric variety. Now I'm going to do some, so I'll call this is 1, and then I'm going to do some grow up. But I'm going to grow up at some non-toric points. namely the interior of the toric boundary divisor. So maybe I'm going to draw up with these 2 points. So I'm going to have 2 exception divisors. Points that go up. So what they said is that if you're going to do this kind of row up, so you're going to attach. If you do a non-toric row up at this age, I'm going to put on a dual vector space of this. So I'm going to put an array which is perpendicular to this. I brought it at this divisor. I'm going to put an initial array that's perpendicular to this. So I'm going to have this. I'm going to put so these are the initial arrays. I need to tell you the functions I put in. So the functions I put in. So this is so I put a formal variable. I was actually sneak in with this, like some formal variables here, but you can sort of, if you don't care about what curve class you're counting, you really can verify. And so so maybe I'll put this E1. So there's some, so therefore E1 and this is E2, then I'm going to put an E1 here, and then I'm going to put 1 plus T to the power of E2. And so this is Y. This is X. And so this is the, so you get a scattering diagram with only initialized. So these are the, just this, you get this, and then, so probably I should mention that, given a scattering diagram, any scattering diagram, there's a word of conservative. Solomon. So that there exists sort of unique of consistent diagram. Which included with this initial rate. And so if you don't, if these are the only rates, lines you have in the scattering diagram, there exists unique consistent scattering diagram. If they have this support of the rays, they're all the same, then you're going to multiply the functions together. Under some equivalence, then there's a unique consistent scattering diagram. And so for this data, this will be, since I already just told you that is consistent. So unique one, this unique one is just by adding this one. So what does this mean? So what they prove is that if you start with this scattering diagram with the initial rate given by the data I just told you, then the rays that I give you, so this the coefficients in the front should be the counting of rational curves only touching the boundary divisor. So maybe I should explain what I mean by boundary divisor. So here that I have a toric pair YD, which is this P2 with the standard toric boundary. So I can look at the proper transform of this toric boundary divisor. I get Y tilde, B tilde. And so B tilde is the proper transform of the toric boundary. So now I'm going to look at the rational curves that's only touch this boundary divisor D tilde at exactly one point. And that's what we call the A1 curve. So now let me draw what are the A1 curves in this field.
Sorry, could you please explain what D is again?
D is the toric boundary. So this is P2, and so this is toric boundary. So union of 3 coordinate lines.
Okay.
And so we take the
Is this strict transform?
yes, strict I always call it proper transform.
Okay, yeah, it's simple.
Probably the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm going to explain what are the A1 curves, and you see that will be corresponding to the rays you have here. So we already see that this E1 and E2 that's happened here. So there's another rise. There's another curve. So there are in total 5 curves in this geometry. So there's that's an A1 curve. So so we have another curve is so we have the A1 curve in this geometry is, so if you have, there's this point and this, probably I should point here. So this point and this point will determine a line. And so there will be exactly a unique line passing through that. That corresponds to the this corresponds to the rays. It's after we blow up that it doesn't touch the bond strict transform, and so it only intersects this one. So that is so this gives you an A1 curve after you blow up. Similar here. So and 5, and so the last one is, so this 2 points will determine a line. This 2 points will determine a line, and this line should intersect this at another point. And so after I blow up, I don't touch this 2 divisor, but they will touch. So there will be a curve like so this line is like going. So now you see that there's 5 A1 curves. So in total, in this geometry, you have 5 A1 curves. So this 5 A1 curves. So sort of I'm going to say that this A1 curve is the A1 curve, the 1-to-1 corresponding to these directions. So there are 5, and so that's the 5 rays you see. So although that this are the same thing, but I would just view this right now. I have this origin is this. I would view this as a different one. So I'll just say that this is 1-to-1 corresponding to this 5 A1 curves. So maybe I'll say now explicitly. So if this is equal to F sigma, if this H is equal to sigma, so this F sigma is actually some beta. So okay, beta and beta with some curve class. And so betas are the sum over all the possible homology class that has the A1 curves. And so this n beta is the logarithm of region variance. So this is what the truth in the work of Rossi underdependency. And so in other words, that you have a geometry. So let me sum up what the truth. So you have geometry is start with a toric pair. You do a non-toric blow up. So the non-toric blow up tells you how to write down the initial rise of the scattering diagram. We know that by the theorem of conceptual, there's a way to adding the rays and functions such that the scattering diagram becomes consistent. And then what it proves is that for those added rays, those coefficients, so you get a function. So this coefficients, they are just log homology. And so together with what we just discussed, so you have a pairs like this, a log Calabi-Yau pairs. You do get A side data, log from a weakened variance. You'll be able to write down a consistent scattering diagram. And then you can ruin all these charts, you get the mirror bound roughly. And that's what happened. So that's why we call this a mirror bound. In this sense.
It sounded like But American company don't really use this resultant concentration supplement.
They do not use them.
Okay, so.
Uh,
So they proved that these log bromo-weighted invariants are what you need to get consistent scattering diagram.
yeah, so there's actually two steps. So tropically, so first of there's you can do it things tropically. So all these coefficients you can interpret as like counting of tropical curves.
Okay.
And that part is in some sense like a reformulate, reprove what concept Solomon did. But actually the same. Actually that part is exactly the same. But then they proved that this log with invariants are exactly tropical. That's neat. But I think that it's also important that for them to actually rewrite this proof because it's make the structure much more clear. In some sense, like geometrically more clear. Right, so now I want to have there's so technically I probably should so this is scattering diagram is what we call the GPS scattering diagram. There's a so technical this is not exactly the gross second field scattering diagram, but so I will put
Sorry, it's possibly a silly question, but this on the other hand, now reversing my original question, this resultant concentration, so it seems like it can be used to define log with invariant. So suppose you didn't want to deal with counting virtual order characteristic of so much with space. You could formulate this into an algebra problem, so to speak, and then take the coefficients of these things and define them to be log with would that be a dishonest way to go about or
well, so I think that what concept Solomon proved is something purely algebraic, right? So this like this transformation multiplied together, this must be identity. And actually, how you solve this, right? So it's just like solve it order by order. So it's really but we don't really what the key point of doing this first kind of zebra is like that tells you that for this wall function, what the coefficient geometric, what's the corresponding geometric interpretation. That's something that I feel very interesting. So technically, I will always view that when I have scattering diagrams, I always have the directions. So initial rays will go in this direction in the sense that they're going away from the boundary. And so if I have this, then I'm going to merge these two points to the origin zone. And so I would remember the direction. So I'm going to have something like this, and then I'm going to reverse the direction of this part. And so that is corresponding GPS scale. Sorry, GHK scattering diagram. So this is GPS. And so they're essentially these two scattering diagrams are equivalent in this sense. And so later on, I will focus on how to derive GPS scattering diagram. That's this is like there's a manual transformation for one. That's so if people are happy so far, I'm going to go to the symplectic side.
Sorry, I missed the distinction between GHK and GPS. So GHK seem to be there's a large class of things called scattering diagrams, and then GPS is a particular way to get such a diagram, or are they actually?
So GPS says if I have a pair of I have a toric surface.
Yeah.
I do some non-toric draw. I have a way to construct a scattering diagram. And
in
so
the sense of GHK.
GPS.
Yeah. So
And then
GPS
GHK is like for every log Calabi-Yau surface pair.
Yeah.
We're going to write down a scattering diagram like this. For example, in this example will be this one. So that will be related this way. So maybe that's already originally I would tend to put the measurements into that. So maybe let me explain. So there's a theorem in surfaces. So if you have a pair, which is log Calabi-Yau surface, actually it's always coming from this one. So you can always find another log Calabi-Yau surface pair and a toric. So this is toric. And so this side you do non-toric blowout. as just like you do not like a non-Fourier plot like this. And so then this side is you contract the components like a -1 curve, like hidden in the boundary divisor. So this is total. And so because when we do so I'll take examples like this. We have the passive surface dp5. So dp5 is like you have it's probably not the best example. So this is dp5. I should have p2. So p2. So I can have I can draw this 4 points. I get a dp5. The p2 brought 4 points, you get dp5. So I brought this 2 corner points, so I get something like this, and then I brought this 2 points. So this is what I have at dp5. So this D will be the proper transform the boundary divisor. So that will be this. And so you can track this too. So maybe say so maybe I will have. So this might be this might be just trivial in this case. Maybe so for example, I can this is really just because this is the Tori variety, so maybe not a complete different example, but so this, for example, I can like contract this to -1 curve. That's what I mean by Tori broke down. That's what I mean in this direction. And this direction is like a Dubrow like this. I hope that this example is okay. So, but I want to say is like when I do Tori broad, because like I draw on the corner, it doesn't change the interior. So it doesn't change. So this process doesn't change preserve like y minus b. So the A1 curve won't change. And so the enumerated invariance is like this, it doesn't change this direction. So since that I can, given a YD, I can always change to this guy without changing the A1 curve. And so if I want to understand the A1 curve, I only consider a toric broad surface, and then you do a non-toric broad. That's all I need.
So GHK is on the left and GPS is on the right.
Yeah, so
They're the
I'm
same.
with this state, this knowledge that these two are exactly the same thing. Okay. So now I can take goes to full theory. Maybe I'll just so I'll use it quickly have a component of the word of that all now. So I have a symplectic manifold. I have Lagrangian. That means that if this is 2 n-dimensional, this is n-dimensional, and then so this half-dimensional submanifold such that the symplectic form regionally equal to 0. So that's what we call Lagrangian. And so what we count at all of that is that there exists a infinity structure on the cohomology right of L. So technically, I need the coefficient to be non-equilibrium, but I don't want to dig into that, but feel free to view this like coefficient real numbers. Technically, I will need some other coefficients. What it means is that there are some operators called NK operators. So they're and satisfy the so-called infinity relations. But it's so one can view this as like an analog of BG algebra. So for example, like a BG algebra. So D is N1, and the bracket is M2, and all the other N higher NK is 0. And so you can view for people who don't know anything algebra, you should view this as a extension of BGA. Right. So once you have this BGA, so what you're going to do is consider deformation. And so you look at the Murakami, which is like a D press the bracket with 0. And so for the anything structures, you would consider similar things, the Murakami equations. And so you're going to consider this the Murakami equations. And that's the generalization of Murakami equation. So if you reduce to the DGA case, this is just D press the bracket equal to 0. That's just the standard Murakami equation. And so here the speed is, I will consider the beat inside H1. So this is the, I was technically, I'm going to optimize some gauge equivalents. But the abstract is that we're interested in what was solved the Murakami equation, and this under this setting here. So if you have a dimension 4, and it was some topological source. I'll ask the Lagrangian to be muffled in the 0, and so this will just be H1, the whole thing. Everything, every element in H upper 1 was a Murakami element. So now I'm going to have, so if I have Lagrangian vibration. So now I have 2 points. Maybe I'll call it B1, B2. So upstairs, there's a corresponding fibers of Lagrangian vibration. Now I can consider a piece of path monad. So it's very natural to expect that anything structure is like you're going to have a cobordism of this Lagrangians upstairs. And it's natural to expect there's some kind of this cobordism will give you some kind of cobordism of the anything structures. And that is what we call the pseudo isomorphism. So this will give you something called pseudo isomorphism of this anything structures. Well, in particular, I will give you something like this. L, maybe I'll call this fiber called LB1, and this called LB2. So there will be a natural isomorphism between these two. Again, technically, their coefficient should be in will be in Novikov ring, but it's only positive powers. There's some technical things I need to put here. But so you might ask, would you care about this? Because like if you have a vibration, this are like there's this choosing path will give you a diffeomorphism of these two fibers. So their H1 are naturally isomorphic by Gaussian convections. So this is not interesting. But the key point of this, because like this is sorry, I put it in the back. So recall that this anything structure is here. This thing's coming from anything structure. This coming from the counting of holomorphic disk. So this isomorphism is actually not Gaussian. So this is actually Gaussian connection plus some higher order term. So this is not this is just like in this galvanic connection or parallel transport plus a higher order term. And this higher order term is coming from holomorphic disks. So if you have holomorphic disks, if you in the middle there's some fibers, and there's some fibers if they bound holomorphic disk, the so-called muscle of index 0. We'll explain later, but that will contribute to this isomer. They are candidates. They can contribute to this isomer. And so then they get this number. So this higher order term all coming from the contribution from this. I will.
When you write number plus higher order term, what you mean is that, as you said, there is a canonical identification between the two, which is the Gaussian identification, and you're regarding that as one.
Yes.
And then
there's
it's one plus stuff.
yes.
Okay.
And that like all the terms like technically yeah, so sorry, so here that there's some formal variable and all the formal variables should have positive powers. And that's what I mean, and all this higher powers should come in from there's the corresponding holomorphic disks. Yeah.
So, I feel like I should think of these marker sign elements as objects of an A infinity category, because they're like deformations of my Lagrangian. And
Yes.
Are you saying this is like an A infinity functor of such? Is this like you have this nabla plus higher stuff? Are you saying that doubles into an A infinity functor of such?
So there's sorry, I'm here. So this A infinity, this pseudo isotropy will give you where is this? So there's an A structure here. So maybe there's one Lagrangian, and for the other one Lagrangian, there will be it's called homology, and it has its own A structures. And between these two, there will be an infinite homomorphism. And yeah, that A homomorphism will induce an isomorphism and the corresponding model.
Okay, and that's what's being referred to here.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. So
Well, this vibration, will you consider these was singular fibers?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
You want to have single fibers
Yeah,
because only you have single fiber you will see interesting.
yeah, okay.
That works.
Okay.
So usually you go to 4 or
Yeah, we go
Okay.
for, yeah.
so let's see. A bit more time. So I need to do some whole thing. But hopefully to not be absurd. So now I have a basis. So I write any element here, I call it x1 e1 plus x2 e2. So e1 e2 are some bases. So ei is in the basis. And z coefficients. So I'll just stick in 2D. And so x1 x2 are the coefficients. I change, it'll go to here. Maybe I'll call it f3. So I can write it as fe1 plus f3. So this I just like it to explain this is the coefficients. And so e1, e2 are so here right hand side are just a parallel transport of e1, e2 in the left. And so that this is not preview here. So I'm going to do a transformation. So I'm going to take zi to be exponential xi. So I'll explain why I'm going to take that, or actually, so the theorem that is I proved a while ago. So this is like if you have a family, in 4D, if you have this. Probably I don't need a slightly more stronger geometric condition like hyperkiller. So if I have a family of Lagrangians that bounding the so-called Maslov inexorable disk, it doesn't touch the boundary divisor. And so then if we go from the points here to the other side, so this is B1, B2 here. And then this transformation will look like this way. This goes to Z partial gamma prime at gamma U. Gamma prime gamma. And so here this at gamma U is 0. There's maybe I'm gonna go to this. So if you have the fibers here, that bound the homomorphic disk, and so that's in the class gamma in the relative homology. Then you want to count this open Gromov-Witten terms. And here this is Z gamma. So this Z partial gamma prime is like what I mean is like I can have Z1. So a homology class, I can take the boundary. So this I take the boundary is inside H1 of L. And so I can pair it with H upper 1 of L. And so there's a natural pair. So that intrinsically defines this notation. So because that if I take the boundary of the disk class, it's in H lower 2. Recall that EI is in H upper 1. Sorry. The boundary of the disk is in H lower 1, and this EI is in H upper 1. So there's a natural pair. And so this will define this notation here. And so what I prove is that under this, so this transformation is equivalent. After you take exponential, you'll get this transformation. If you remember, it's really this is exactly the form of this transformation we have in the schedule. This is in 2D.
This FB1.
Yeah, so this guy has two components. So this. Oh, sorry. So I probably should say that there's a transformation. Then you look at this transformation, it's like exponential, like F. In this, I should say this transformation is here. That's a host. So this guy is inside here, right? So this guy has basis E1 and E2. You can these are just FB1 is just the coefficient in front of E1, and FB2 is coefficient.
So are you just saying like this morphism is encoded by this block class in front of?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
After taking exponential, and taking exponential is actually exactly the spirit of SYZ, because recall that SYZ can directly affect the mirror family. The mirror is given by the dual torus function. Right. So so if I have a Lagrangian, this is naturally as like a form of maybe this is naturally as like H1 of LR quotient by H1 of L Z. And so the dual torus is the H upper 1 of L R quotient by H1 upper 1 of LZ. That's the dual torus. So why that's explain why I'm taking exponential, because like you see that I had things in H upper 1 R. This lambda you should view as R. Now I'm going to take exponential, then I'm going to quotient now this lattice. And then so you see that things, the ZI is the natural coordinates in the mirror. So I hope that from the SYZ perspective, is what I'm doing here is better. So So now I will just explain this DP5 example. So now I'm going to have this DP5 example. I'm showing up these 2 points. Or even trouble with this. So this is toric and then do a 2 non-toric block. So this is YD. And so for step 1 is to reconstruct the Lagrangian vibration. On Y minus. So that's the first step. So roughly what's happening is that you have a so if I am to say Lagrange, so first thing I need to tell you what symplectic form I'm using. So I'm using a very non-standard symplectic form. So omega is like which is like a pullback the symplectic form, the toric symplectic form downstairs, and then you have small symplectic area. Is in this class. I choose this symplectic form, which is like I have something like this with small area and an acceptance divisor, but it's large in the middle is just like a pullback of symplectic downstairs. And so then you have the symplectic in the middle of this you have the moment vibration, which is Lagrangian. You can put it back, it's still Lagrangian. And so here that one need to do some surgery. And every time we do a blow up, that will give me a singular fiber. So what's happening is that I'm going to have 2 singular fibers, 1 for each blow up. And what we'll be able to prove is that then there will be near this singular fiber, there will be like a straight line. So these are the rays are the low side of fibers bounding holomorphic disks locally. And we can prove that there are straight lines. And there are straight lines or affine lines. Respect to the so recall that you have there's a moment map. So and on one hand, so toric variety has a moment polytope, but you can do a Lagrange transform. After you do a Lagrange transform, there will be the straight lines. So then we can talk about. So you see that this low side look like the initial rise. So this will be the initial rise. So now you have, so we know that there will be, but there may be more holomorphic disks going on. So, and all this disk will just inside, just index. This doesn't touch the boundary. And this is what we call the muscle of index 0 disk. So now we're going to apply the theorem. Oh, I forget to say one thing. So one thing is that if it goes around, so from core theory, what you can prove is that if it goes around a loop, so I forget to say one very important thing is from core theory. So if you have a loop, then this transformation from H1, a fiber to itself, this is identity. Strictly identity. There's no higher illusion. And because that we know that we know that there are disks, and then we go from this direction, so we need to prove that it will look like a Potter transformation. And so if it goes around, I know that it must be identity, and because everything is in this form, that means that there must be a one an extra family of this, although I cannot see it like in an explicit way, but that means that there should be a family. And this counting, this open group Morgan invariance should be exactly the coefficients. There's a weird thing that you get some knowledge from anything structure that's fully from analysis, and while then together with algebra, this concept Solomon lemma, altogether they give you some non-trivial effect of the existence of homomorphisms. So then I want to give you some idea of why this corresponds to D1 curve. So now it's essentially, so this family of this, you probably, so this topological look like this. So so upstairs we have a near this singular fiber. So this is a pinch torus. And so this direction of this is like a union the vanishing cycle. So you get a topological, I hope that it convinces you this is a disk. So here that you have another family of this, it's coming on from here. And up here, topologically, you drew a pair of paths. You get this family of this. If I move this Lagrangian boundary condition to infinity, what's going on is that this direction, if you go in this direction, this circle is shrinking to a point. So then if I move to the moment map picture, it's going to shrink to a point. And this only touches and infinity at exactly 1 point. That's like sort of a naive, intuitive reason why that this open group Morgan invariance here at the end coincide with the counting of A1. So I want to say,
But essentially, we're saying all the open come from some closed version.
the counting are the same. Yeah, that's one of the consequences. I think this is a follow conjecture when actually that's the motivation they start to define this kind of invariance. They want to mimic the open invariance. So there's a conjecture that they should be the same thing. So this is what.
But also, you want to add some, like for the choice of symplectic form, you want some epsilon.
It doesn't change. It doesn't change the number.
Why do you want to do that? Is it because you want?
That's a good question. So that's coming from the technical region. It's easier for me to, that's the symplectic form I know how to construct Lagrangian fiber.
But is it because you have easier to deal with Lagrangian fiber?
Yeah, it's easier for me to construct the Lagrangian fiber.
Is it because you will now have singularities sliding to each other, or?
Yeah, you can say that way. So if you that will make this Lagrangian fiber, this singularity is like a closer, sort of in some sense closer to the boundary. If like you have this larger, I lose control. I don't really know what exactly it looked like in my. There's some other work that is we can deal with that, but not. So there's some, maybe I'll say a few words about some technical difficulties, because if I want to do the geometry in X, this is not complete. This is not complete. And so there's usually some compactness here. Because if I want to do a flow theory, the moduli space of like a curve or moduli space of this need to be compact to do flow theory or any intersection theory you want to do. This is non-compact. And so the main difficulty is coming from how do we do flow theory for a non-compact geometry. And this is not complete. So even like so it's not bounded geometry, and so standard argument doesn't work. And so we really need to rely on this is standard complex structure. So it's very different from the usual symplectic geometry point of view. What we did is here is like we proved a very weird thing. So if we prove that if there is a holomorphic disk upstairs, downstairs I should be able to see a tropical curve, tropical disk with certain condition. In other words, if I can prove non-existence of such tropical disk, that means upstairs I cannot have holomorphic disk with the certain boundary condition. That gives you some a strong like non-existent holomorphic disks, and this is like some kind of statement I never seen it before in symplectic. And so maybe I'll end with the sort of corollary is like
But the topical curve, it just means, it's like, just like some image, maybe image of some curve on this base, or wouldn't be a tropical.
Oh, tropical curves means like, so here that there's a vibration, there's a base, right?
Yeah,
So on the base, there's an integral fine structure. So which is just like a original, the dual of the moment point.
Yeah.
And
there's
so on there, you can talk about tropical
some graph.
disk, yeah. So this really the standard tropical disk. So for example, like I would say the corollary is. So maybe oh, sorry, I should say that you see that here that the initial rays are have the right functions. And the rays as the GPS. And so the first corollary is like this open formation guarantee with the able counting. So we can also use this to count muscle in the two disks, and so probably I'll just say that some slogan. So there's usually like in cubic surface, everyone knows there are 27 lines. And so there are some conjectures of Nick Sheridan that on cubic surface, there are certain Lagrangian, they should have 21 disks. So this is like a real version of this conjecture. And so one theory that we have is like we can prove this conjecture using our machinery. Maybe I should, I mean, running out of time, maybe I'll just thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? But from the stuff at the beginning, so these open Gromov-Lin invariants.
Yeah.
Wait, is this on the other side of a dual, or am I?
It's on YD.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So it's inside X. Actually, it's inside X. So
Okay.
so recall what's going on. So let me rephrase again. So we have a pair that's YD.
Yeah.
What's going on is like we first construct a Lagrangian equation here. So that's in X. We put Y minus 2.
Okay. Yeah.
And so then, so on this Lagrangian pattern, we look at the we count the holomorphic disk with boundary on the Lagrangian factor. We'll get a scattering diagram. And this scattering diagram will be exactly the same as the GPS.
Okay.
And so then you can play the same game in the toric.
Yeah.
And so in symplectic geometry, you can do it like in the category of region analytic spaces.
But the fibers are on the dual tori from where you start.
Yes, because like when we do things, when we do the charts, you see that when we do the charts, we're on each upper one. And so that's the reason why the mirror-like construct is really the dual fibration in that sense. But everything is in terms of regional, actually technically it should be in terms of regional geometry, because I need to include this like a novical there.
Any other question?
Can you say more about the mix? I didn't hear clearly what's the statement. What's that figure like this?
So what we show exactly is this. So cubic surface, let's grow up of P2 at 6 points, right? So every time, so P2, so we brought up at 2 points. So if you run right, it's like this. So if you choose a Lagrangian here, then this becomes exactly 21 disks.
Well, how do I translate that into like scattering diagram quantity of the one?
So this, okay, so that's it. So this 21 disk is actually technically is counting so-called Maslov index to this. So Maslov index of a class. So Maslov index. Sorry, I am hiding something. So Maslov, this is always 2 times beta, called the boundary divisor. This beta is a curve class or the disk class, and the boundary doesn't touch the
Some broken line.
yeah, this broken line.
this.
So what we actually also, another thing we actually also prove is like, if this geometry has some kind of positivity, it's it's like semifinal, then counting of muscle in the two is exactly the same as counting proton in your language.
No, but no, this is final, right?
This is what,
Cubic surface is final.
yeah,
That's so like, no, but like, what do you mean by, like, there are 21 broken line, like, at the point, like, it means, at pick of generic point?
but we'll take this one.
Yeah.
Oh, given this scattering diagram of this one, you have 21 proton.
Which point?
And, well, I think that's, okay,
Because like, if I have a cubic surface and I have a like, I pick a random point on the scattering diagram, I expect like, what do you remember, like,
so, okay, so, proton line, well, so,
even if it might be broken, I mean, having to ending at that point, right?
so you want to have muscle in it too. So that means like, I only allow like, it only touched the boundary divisor, the homology class only touched the boundary divisor one. It will be only final. This is because this is final, so you can have it. Because of remote compact, you only have final. I think, let's see. Yeah, this final condition or semi-final condition is something that you guarantee that you only have final. This counting will be definitely final. Because of the promote compact. That the number of the things that you touch in infinity, that will give you the energy bound with this, and so that then you can apply promote compact, and so you will have only finite terms, and that's sort of like why we need some kind of positivity on the empty.
It doesn't matter which divisor this cut.
And so there are three, right? So for cubic surface.
Oh, you have to touch the,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the only touch the,
No, you need to touch that exact one of them.
the three boundary component,
Exactly one.
exactly ones, okay, I understand.
Sorry. There's a big confusion.
But like, okay, but like, I think Pascal, right, James Pascal.
Yeah, then they have a different proof, but they're something similar, but they will need to make some monotone assumptions under the Lagrangian formula. We don't need that.
But also, would you prove apply to a cluster variety?
Yeah.
The cluster variety in general, can you apply a proof results to prove that not only that surfaces but general cluster variety?
Yeah, so I think that we have the same in like the rank 2 cluster variety.
But general.
Well, general one, so, well, because like, general one, there should be a similar statement. I think this sort of done by like a Julia and previous. So, but I think that the spirit of this proof is essentially the same. But they know how to do this HDTV, I only know GPS.
That it's like coming from some, it agrees with the Gauss-Seibel construction. I don't think they prove any fluid.
They didn't prove what?
Fluid,
Oh, flow theory is a different thing, but I mean like it's. Because if you follow a similar thing that we did, like you replace GPS by HDTV, then you get something like high diameter analog of what we did.
so what is proof work for cluster varieties immediately?
Oh, what do we get for a cluster
Yeah, techniques here. So like the statements you prove for Log Calabi-Yau surface can
Yeah.
also be immediately proved for.
Yeah, for a cluster variety.
Yes.
Yeah, for rank.
Cluster.
Because like so here what the property part that I said here is the only work for dimension 2.
Oh, yeah, also.
So the property part that this only work in dimension 2. And so like Jens Pascal and so their work is in some sense like everything they have is sort of like reduced in two-dimensional local model. And so they also need some like monotonic assumption. So there's which is some technical assumption. But that is strong assumption. So here we don't need monotone. We allow the Lagrangian to more flexible, but we're doing two-dimensional.
Thank you, Shen, again, final time, save questions already. Learn.